The courtroom was buzzing with anticipation as Jasmine Crockett prepared to speak, but nobody expected what was about to happen. Judge Roberts, in a move that shocked everyone, called her unfit right there in open court. The word hung heavy in the air, sparking gasps and uneasy whispers. For a moment, it seemed like time stopped. Cameras zoomed in, pens halted mid-sentence, and even the seasoned clerks shifted uncomfortably. Roberts had thrown a match onto dry leaves, and the firestorm was inevitable. But Crockett didn't flinch. She rose from her seat slowly, her face calm, her eyes sharp. She wasn't about to let that insult go unanswered, and what she said next would change the entire mood of the room. Standing tall, Crockett met Roberts' gaze without blinking. "Unfit?" she repeated, her voice steady as steel. "I've spent my entire career fighting for justice, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary." Every word was deliberate, heavy with meaning. She wasn't just defending herself, she was defending every underdog who had been underestimated and sidelined. The audience, sensing the gravity of the moment, leaned forward in their seats. She wasn't shouting, but the power in her voice commanded the room. Every pair of eyes was locked on her. Crockett wasn't just answering back as she was making history. "I graduated with honors from law school," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "I served my community with integrity, standing against systems designed to break people who looked like me." Roberts tried to maintain his stoic demeanor, but even he shifted in his seat. Crockett's presence grew with every sentence, until it felt like she was the only one standing in the entire room. Her words cut through the air sharper than any gavel strike. This was no angry outburst. This was a calculated, brilliant dismantling of a baseless attack, delivered with the precision of a surgeon and the fire of a warrior. She held up a thick file of documents. "My record speaks louder than any label you try to stick on me," she said. "Wins in courtrooms you wouldn't dare step into. Victories for people forgotten by the system. Battles fought and won with nothing but my knowledge, my voice, and my refusal to back down." Every sentence was a hammer blow, chipping away at the notion that she was unfit. The audience was silent now, and not because they weren't moved, but because they were stunned into stillness. Crockett wasn't just defending her qualifications, she was putting the system itself on trial. Turning slightly to face the entire room, Crockett spoke louder, her voice ringing clear and true. "When you call me unfit, you're revealing more about yourself than you are about me." The impact of her words was palpable. People in the gallery exchanged looks. Some of the jurors shifted uncomfortably. Roberts himself looked like he wanted to say something, but for once, he had no words. Crockett wasn't giving him a way out. She was forcing him, and everyone else, to sit with the discomfort he created. "I didn't get here because someone handed me a position," she continued. "I turned ID step by painful step, in rooms that didn't want me, under rules not made for me." Her voice cracked slightly, and not with weakness, but with the raw emotion of truth. It made her even more powerful, even more real. "And yet, here I stand, not because I was invited, but because I refused to be denied." The strength in her words was undeniable. Every eye stayed glued to her. Nobody checked their phones. Nobody dared interrupt. Crockett had taken complete control. She paced slowly, each step deliberate. "When you called me unfit, you tried to shrink me," she said. "But I don't shrink, I expand." The metaphor landed like a thunderclap. Reporters scribbled furiously, trying to capture every word. Crockett wasn't just responding to an insult, she was rewriting the narrative in real time. She was teaching a master class in resilience, poise, and unapologetic excellency, all without raising her voice once. She listed her achievements: landmark cases won, wrongful convictions overturned, legislation she had helped push through. "If this is what unfit looks like," she said, "then perhaps we need to redefine fitness." Laughter rippled quietly through the gallery, more out of admiration than amusement. Crockett allowed herself a small, knowing smile. She was turning Roberts' attack into her own weapon, forging something stronger with every word. Roberts, clearly rattled, cleared his throat. But Crockett wasn't finished. "You see, Mr. Roberts, authority is not about robes, or gavels, or titles," she said. "It's about standing up when it's easier to sit down. It's about speaking truth when silence would be safer." She gestured to the ceiling, as if addressing the very institution itself. And it's about doing the right thing even when the right thing is unpopular. The power of her conviction was magnetic. Nobody could look away. She referenced the struggles of other trailblazers who had faced the same kind of belittlement: Thurgood Marshall, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Shirley Chisholm. They were all called unfit once too, she said, until history proved otherwise. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Not even the shuffle of papers or the creak of a chair interrupted her now. Crockett wasn't just speaking for herself anymore. She was speaking for everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. Words are powerful, Crockett continued, her tone deepening. They can wound or they can heal. They can tear down or they can lift up. You chose to wound today. She let the accusation hang in the air. But I chose to heal. I choose to build. Her voice softened slightly, but the steel never left it. She wasn't asking for an apology. She wasn't asking for approval. She was standing on her own unshakable foundation. She looked around the courtroom, making eye contact with as many people as she could. I want every young girl who sees this moment to know: you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You don't have to be accepted to make a difference. You just have to be brave enough to stand. The quiet sniffles from the audience told her she was reaching people. She was changing hearts right there, right then. And if being brave makes me unfit, she added, then I wear that label with pride. Her words were a final, devastating blow, and not of cruelty, but of unbreakable self-respect. Crockett didn't wait for permission to speak her truth. She seized it, owned it, and shared it with a force no title could suppress. Even her harshest critics couldn't deny the undeniable anymore. With deliberate calm, she returned to her seat. The room remained silent. Roberts stared ahead, no longer attempting to mask his discomfort. The other judges looked uneasy, exchanging glances they didn't want to explain. Crockett simply placed her notes on the table and folded her hands. She had said what needed to be said, and she had said it in a way nobody could erase or diminish. The silence lasted for a full minute, maybe more. In courtrooms, silence is usually heavy with fear or formality, but this silence was different. It was respectful, reverent, a collective acknowledgement that something profound had just occurred. Crockett didn't need a standing ovation. She didn't need a press conference. The silence itself was the recognition she deserved. Outside the courtroom, reporters scrambled to be the first to report what had happened. Clips of her speech began circulating online within minutes. By the end of the day, hashtags with her name trended across every platform. News anchors called it one of the most powerful courtroom moments in recent memory. Scholars called it a masterclass in legal poise and personal dignity. Robert Slater issued a muted statement, attempting to reframe his comment as a misunderstanding, but it was too late. Crockett's words had already entered the public consciousness. They would be quoted in speeches, cited in classrooms, and etched into the history books. She had turned an attempted insult into an unforgettable triumph. Jasmine Crockett didn't gloat. She didn't attack. She didn't stoop to the level of those who underestimated her. She rose above it all with grace and ferocity. Her actions that day proved what real fitness looks like, not in pedigree, but in presence, not in title, but in truth. She reminded the world that courage often speaks loudest in the face of insult. In the days that followed, support for Crockett poured in from all corners of the country. Letters, calls, tweets, interviews. Of people couldn't stop talking about the woman who stood alone against disrespect and emerged stronger. She became a symbol for resilience, not just in politics but in every arena where voices are marginalized and doubted. Roberts called her unfit, but history called her something else: a leader, a fighter, and a force to be reckoned with. Jasmine Crockett showed that when you know your worth, no insult can shake you. In the end, the courtroom didn't need a ruling to know the truth. It was written all over the stunned faces, the silent respect, and the unstoppable power of one woman's voice.